From some smoke. Doesn't get prettier than that.
I don't remember.
And a one-hand effort by Harris. Harris stabs it.
What is up, everybody? College Football Print Factory here. It's me, Mangone. It's Bruce. No Bryce. It's Big T in the building, which we got to go to Big T first. Bruce, you can stand on the side. We got to talk to Big T. It's been too long since we've seen him. My internet is going out, so that's lovely. But Big T, I'll go to you. Hopefully my internet can hold up during the show. But I know you love a good stroking. And, of course, with you being here, we got to stroke you because the people love having you and they miss you.
I know. I missed on the show. It's just tough on Fridays with all the stuff we got going where it's the print factory we do, hoops now at night. It's tough. It's tough to get in here and grind, but I like doing the old college show with you guys too. That's what I always like. I wish I could do this show and not the other shows, honestly. I like this show better. I don't need to look at JSU's ass. I'd rather look at you guys.
Yeah, happy to have you. We got Devin's excited to see you. Steve said it's a downgrade off of Bryce. So.
It's hurtful, Steve. It's hurtful, Steve. I gave a big speech yesterday how good Steve Boynton is, and then he comes in very hurtful today. That's hurting my feelings.
Yeah, so he says he buttered you up yesterday. It sounds like we need to go. Sounds like we need to go cancel the Sun Belt Conference show coming up. Next week. I'm just kidding, Steve. He's already killing it with the college basketball stuff. So if you're a college football fan, I'm sure you'll like the college basketball stuff. And it'll be the first big Saturday for college basketball. So you'll have the double college sports going on for the weekend. So that'll be a lot of fun. Bruce, we'll go to you. How's everything going over there?
Everything's going great. Just getting ready for tonight. We have a 4-game slate and then a huge weekend. Took a couple of days off of work this week to get ahead, and it feels great. Last week was solid. Had McCown and cheap quarterbacks in there, so I could jam RJ Harvey, and Kanye, who's cheap again this week. So yeah, looking forward to talking about it a little bit with you guys. Just a great slate of games. Even the evening slate is really good too. So. Yeah, gonna be a good week of college football.
Yeah, RJ Harvey has been a hero, so I've been a big fan of him. He's been crushing it all year. Not all year.
How much money did our boy Wakey win last week? Those teams he had were absolutely ridiculous. The teams he had.
The scores were nuts. He had to have definitely won a lot, though. I would assume.
I mean, he had to have won minimum like 60 or 70.
Yeah, he definitely had a huge weekend. So, great reasons why.
I can't believe he got caught in the main. In the main, I thought he had it wrapped up, and then the scoring was just absolutely absurd.
That I saw his team too, and I was like, "That's such a great start." But I was like, I just knew the scores were too nuts to like for the college scores.
But the combo he had, like, that's what's insane about college. Like the combo he had was not easy to like get to on top of it. And it was just like, man, how can he get caught? But there was just so many guys that nuked.
That's because he had like, I think there were two. There was Watkins who was like, was he 3 or 5% owned, Bruce? Do you remember?
Low owned, yeah.
Yeah, he was low. Yeah, three or so.
Yeah,
and
so
the Memphis guy that was low owned.
Yeah, so he had Blankham C and he had Watkins together, which was like just key. And of course, Blankham C is an idiot. He got himself hurt celebrating in the first half, which was insane. So he could have had an even more of a monster score. So yeah, it was pretty crazy, but Wakey had a huge week, I'm sure. It was definitely a fun one. I had enough Watkins where I was happy, but didn't get enough to get over the finish line to get, one of those top 10 finishes or something, but hopefully we can get that this week. We can break down the slate for you guys. Bruce, we're going to kick it off with the first game. We're going to go to Ohio State and Purdue, and this is definitely going to be an interesting game. And you talked about it pre-show with me. You said Will Howard is likely going to be a quarterback that's going to be pretty high owned on this slate, which, I mean, that's pretty shocking to see, Bruce. We don't normally see Will Howard chalk. It's also a game where they could be up a ton, right? And just handing the ball off. So for 8,100, I don't know what I want to do with him. We know they're going to put up points, though. Jeremiah Smith, 7.1K, Egbuka, 6.6. These are clearly good plays that you can get exposure to. The Pursuit side of the ball, the question is, what do we do with guys like Maccabee, 4-5? Hudson Card, I know he could pop up sometimes here and there on slates at 5-1 in a trailing script, but in a tough matchup. They're all cheap, so you can make the case for the run backs like we've talked about on these shows. We need cheap quarterbacks sometimes. So is Hudson Card going to be a cheap quarterback that we could get to? And what are you doing with this full-on Ohio State onslaught we got?
Yeah, it's always tough to play these kinds of games. I hate it when DK puts them on the slate, period, just because Purdue is so bad, and this is a home game for Ohio State. So, yeah, it's rough. I think if you do play Will Howard, you're going to play one of these receivers. Purdue runs a ton of man defense, so they're going to struggle to 1v1 Smith and Egbuka here. So I could see one of them putting up a big score. They're both relatively cheap. They're not like 9K like we saw from Marv last year some weeks. So they're still playable here, definitely, and they're going to have some kind of ownership as a pairing with Will Howard. It's just tough to play these Purdue guys. I think if you do, you're playing Max Clare or one of these cheap receivers, Edrin or Tibbs. But man, I hate doing it. I may just fade it all together. Maybe play Judkins or something to get a little bit different. Purdue's rush defense is just as terrible as everything else. So, and they love to run the football. But yeah, it's rough. I think I may have a piece or two of it, but not a ton. I just don't see a way that Purdue keeps it close.
All right, Big T, I'm assuming you're not going to be super high on this spot. Maybe I'm wrong. You can make the case, hey, they're probably going to put up a ton of points. And, hey, points are nice to have in college, right? We at least know we know decently where it's going to go. It's either going to go to one of those two receivers or the running backs. So points are going to be put up, Big T. It's probably not going to shoot out, but it's a game I think that has a nice floor. I worry about the ceiling, though.
Yeah, I like pretty much agree exactly with what Bruce said. I always struggle with these games because – in one sense, you have a nice floor for all these guys, and they're going to get easy points. So easy points are good. You just lose so much ceiling, though, because you have to get everything early. It's even harder for me to play like Howard. I think it's easier to play the receivers just because, I mean, like Jeremiah Smith could get there in literally like 2 plays, 2 house calls, like we saw with Marvin Harrison all year last year. Egbuka is more of a possession guy, so I don't like him as much. And you even got Carnell Tate, who's been pretty good at 3,500. Let me look at his targets. Guys like him, it feels like he's been doing good. I mean, not a ton of targets, though. He had a 23-point week. The cheaper guys in spots like this, though, do like catch my eye just a little bit for value, like Carnell Tate. So I agree a lot with what Bruce said. I'm definitely not playing Purdue guys. Ohio State's kind of looked overrated to me too, dare I say that, but they almost lost to Nebraska. Penn State played them pretty tough the whole time, even though they won. And I know Penn State's good, but I don't know if Purdue can do anything. This game could really get going, which makes it even more annoying. They just shouldn't put these on. I mean, it's a 38-point spread, 53 total. It's just hard because it could be the nuts, but it probably won't be. I struggle to go to it.
Yeah, I'm never the biggest fans of these games either. Not saying I'll exit from the slate, but I probably want to be lower on this game. There's just other games I would rather get to. Yes, I know Ohio State's going to put up points. It's a 53.5 total. They're 38 favorites. Clearly, they're going to put up a lot, but I definitely am not dying to get there with this one. And again, we talked about it. The scores have been pretty crazy lately, and I don't know. I think they can be crazy again this weekend for sure. We have some good games. We'll get to them for sure. I think some of them are in the later windows. There's some okay early ones. This is not one of those.
These games in college, though. Like, I know we keep saying it, but like you get games that just snowball both ways, where you just keep having to score. And when that happens, you just really can't win with like an Ohio State stack. There's just not enough upside. It's not like other sports. That's why we love college football. When they start scoring, like they just keep going. So it just makes it really hard.
Yeah, 1,000%. And the way the pricing has been this year, I've talked about this on all the shows pretty much. There's just like so much, like they're pricing down certain teams like Minnesota and Rutgers, who we'll get to. Like they're pricing guys down where you can just get so many absolute studs in your lineup, and there's some crazy combinations. They're not like they're making it where it's easy to get pretty much every game. Like I said, Purdue has playable plays on their team. Yes, I don't love that game, but for the prices, and that's what I'm saying. The pricing is just allowing you to basically play most of the games. They're not like pricing guys out of games. Let's get the Rutgers and Minnesota next. Definitely not a game I don't think that's going to snowball a ton. Bruce, I do not have their total because Rutgers can never find their total. Yeah. So what is the total on this game?
It's 46.5, Minnesota by 6.
Yes, and we know the running backs are really strong on both these teams. Darius Taylor, 8.7. You got a very strong projection on him. Kyle Monaghay, 7.4K. Clearly a good play that we can get to if we want to. He's questionable, though. Then you got Daniel Jackson at receiver, 5.5K. Brosmer at 6K. I mean, there's definitely plays in this game that you get to. Miller as a value, you got him around 13.6 projection. He's 4K. There's clearly plays you could play here. I just don't know if this is one of the games. There's a lot of good games in the late window that I'm going to like. There's a couple good games in the early window, too. I think if I mix and match a couple values, I wouldn't like X them out, but this is not a game to prioritize for me. How about you?
Yeah, same with me. The running backs are just great plays here. Both are priced up, but Mononga is a game time decision. Last I saw, so that could have changed, but I just did a quick search. If he's in, he's a solid play at home against Minnesota. Minnesota's rush defense has been pretty bad this season. Same could be said for Rutgers. I watched the game against Wisconsin, and Tawee Walker just like had so much room to run. This is a similar team to that. So they're giving up 37 points per game to running backs so far this year. So you have a workhorse guy coming in. He should smash. You can also make a case for Brosmer as like a leverage play. There was that one game a couple weeks ago where he absolutely smashed. So he has that in him. And when I watched that Wisconsin game, that quarterback should have smashed for Wisconsin too. He just missed a couple plays. He would have put up 30 points on us. So I don't mind that paired with like a Daniel Jackson. He's only 5,500, and Brosmer at 6K. You can do a lot with that. So, those are mainly my plays here. I don't really like anything else. Maybe Demir Miller for Rutgers. He's kind of been their go-to guy here lately with the 30% target share last 4 weeks.
All right, Big T, I'll go to you. I don't think it's a game you're going to load up on. We've actually talked about Brosmer a little bit on this show. And we said you probably would make fun of us for it, but I doubt you're playing Brosmer here in this spot.
Yeah, I don't usually go to quarterbacks in these spots, but one thing I do every week is play Darius Taylor, though. The guy is just a beast. And one thing I've learned over the years in college, even in low totals, these running systems where the guy just gets all the carries and just all the massive workload, you just play them and they just crush every single week. And he's going to be owned, but man, he's going against Rutgers who've been carved. You know they're going to run the ball. It just looks like an easy play to me. Definitely one of the easiest. And like Devin in the chat just said, he's even got a bunch of PPR upside. When I just pulled up his box scores, I knew he got a bunch of volume. But the dude has a 9-catch game, a 10-catch game, a couple 5s. I mean, he's getting a ton of PPR upside, too, on top of it. Man, it looks like an absolute smash. I probably won't play anyone else in this game. I mean, Daniel Jackson, definitely a good price, definitely good volume. I don't hate it as like a one-off, but for me, it's just slam Darius Taylor in there and move on.
All right. Slam Darius Taylor and move on. And yeah, he's 8.7. You're going to have to spend for him, but definitely think you have to have him in your tournament pool, right? You may not get a lot based on the way you project stuff. It just depends on the math and how it goes. And
I mean, you're going to get a decent amount. He's got a big boy projection.
That's true. But if I do get him, I don't know. I might need some cheap, shitty quarterbacks. The thing is, Tony, you definitely like to make fun of some of these cheap quarterbacks, but I've said it on these shows. This is the year to be playing cheap quarterbacks. It's been working.
I don't mind playing the in the right spots for sure. I don't hate it as much as I used to.
I get. I'm just telling you, the math this year is saying you just need to you have to look for it more than not. And I don't know. I may not ignore Brosmer completely if I need to. We'll have to see. Just because it's been tough this year. And again, Bruce said it. The highest owned quarterback is projected to be Will Howard right now. And I mean
Will Howard, he just can't be the highest.
Yeah, it's going to be something like that. Unless Bryson Daly is in, it's going to be something stupid.
He's going to be in, right? You got to think he's going to play.
Well, he had an infection, so I don't know if it's something really bad.
That would suck. After how good he's been, that would suck if he had to miss a bunch of games.
Did they lose last week or no? Did they win?
No, they won.
They won.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. Well, you never know.
They didn't roll or anything. They kind of just coasted without him. But
yeah, they need to just keep they actually have to win with the 12-team playoff stuff. These games actually matter. It's not like this team's playing for nothing. Like in the past, we knew Army, if they went undefeated, it wouldn't have mattered, right? This could matter. So, all right, Cincy and West Virginia, 55.5 total here. I like Sorsby. I think West Virginia's defense is bad, but do I want to spend the money for Sorsby at 7.9K? I'm not dying to. Henderson at 6.7, he's definitely a good option you can get to. You have a really good projection on White, but it's do I want to play White or Donaldson, Bruce? I absolutely hate that conversation. This feels like a game where you could see points. It could be a good fantasy game, but I don't know if I want to play the guessing game with some of these West Virginia guys. It's just pretty brutal overall. They have a cheaper quarterback in Mark Hull, who you should talk a little bit about here. That could be an interesting option. But, Bruce, this is a game I think plays could be on the winner, but I also think I could see myself kicking myself for playing this game when there's just better games on the slate, and I don't feel like playing a guessing game with this game.
Yeah, both defenses, give up a good amount of explosive plays, especially West Virginia. So, kind of interested in the Cincy offense with Sorsby and maybe a receiver or two. Big play guy being Xavier Henderson. He's 6,700, so you have to spend up for him. But a guy like Mays or Tony Johnson, they're both cheap, 3,100, 3,600. I don't mind that at all, especially as a value play. But the running backs are always rough. White and Donaldson, like you said, both cheap. It's tough to play those guys outside of tournaments. Corey Kiner should see some ownership here, 5,900, and going to get most of the snaps. So I don't mind him. The quarterback for West Virginia with Garrett Green out, he's a runner. I know he came in a few games when Green got banged up, and he ran the ball mostly. So I think he's a good play at 6,800. He's going to be unowned. So don't mind him at all. Especially you can run him naked. You don't have to worry about playing a receiver with him too. So I like him a lot. He's averaged 5 rushes per game in limited time. So probably project that out to 12 to 15 rushes.
All right, we got the crew also hanging out with us. Maddie Ice says, my house looks impeccable. The cleaning lady did show up today, so she took care of business. And we got Mama Rock's Homestead talking up the product. We love having you, so, keep hanging out with us. Keep rocking with us, Mr. Homestead. Big T, I'll go to you next. Cincy and West Virginia, again, I don't know what to do with this game. Maybe you can guide us a little bit here, because I love what Bruce said, explosive plays, and we want to target explosive plays, but I don't know where they're going, and I don't know. I could just see this game having scoring and then it's still not being on the winner. That's how frustrating both these teams can be.
Yeah, you talked about pricing, and this is how you get some of the big plays in, because you got these Cincy guys that are just way projected over their price points. I mean, Tony Johnson, 3,600, good projection. And he's looked good. He's looked good too. Jamoy Mays, 3,100, good projection. Royer, good. It's weird because Henderson priced up's the one I like the least, and he's their best player. But these other three guys, Tony Johnson, Royer, Mays, all have really good projections for their price points. And Sorsby isn't cheap, but he's not like crazy expensive in the 7Ks. It's just a perfect spot for a double stack, which I love in college, where you can play a quarterback double stack. These are the teams that always win, at least for me. When I can find like two double stacks and then two big running backs or something as an example of just a roster construction, like Darius Taylor plus some other spend up like Maffa or something like that on this slate, and then double stack two different teams, it just ends up working. But man, like Tony Johnson at 3,600 just looks like a slam dunk, and he's not even that high owned. There's going to be points in this game. Even if you didn't play Sorsby and you played two of these cheap receivers, I think they could both get you 20 points at under 4K, counting Royer in that mix. But I don't know. I really like that side. The West Virginia side, like you guys said, is a little more frustrating. I mean, both running backs are probably pretty good plays at their prices, 4,600 and 4,100. The problem is they split. And in college, you just have so many guys that get all the workload that it makes it tough. But their prices are cheap. That is one good thing about it. I mean, they're both projected pretty good for guys in the 4Ks. So I do think this is a pretty good like Saber Sim type game where you throw it in the mix and see what comes out.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I'm going to definitely throw it in and see how it comes out. And I don't want to be too overexposed to it just because there's other good games for sure, right? But that I kind of think that's the best way to attack it. Let's get to Bruce's team. We'll hook 'em horns against Florida, against the Gators. We haven't played a ton of Texas this year, right? The running back situation has been a bit murky. Isaiah Bond was really cheap for a bit, but he was struggling with injuries. Looks like he's going to be back 4.8K. If Texas does get scored on by this Gators offense, Montreal Johnson has the ability to have a really strong game at the price point, right? At 4.4K. We know he can break slates. I know I've had some exposure here and there at low ownership. He's definitely not a bad option in this spot. The quarterback situation is kind of the problem for Florida. Now, they do have a 4.6K quarterback in Warner. I liked Lagway in the past. I had played him a little bit here and there. I even a little bit last week, as crazy as it sounds. I think I had like a small percentage, and it was just because these cheap quarterbacks are something you need. And 4.6K is cheap, Bruce. Texas hasn't been like an absolute powerhouse on the defensive side. Talk to us about Warner as maybe a cheap option to consider and an obvious trailing script and other plays that we could look at in this game.
Yeah, I agree. I watched Florida last week against Georgia, and this guy came in and he wasn't great. He doesn't run really. But he is 4,600, like you said. So, and all the receivers are cheap for Florida in a trailing script, most likely. Badger could be out too. Montreal Johnson is questionable, so have to monitor that one as well. So everything on the Florida side is pretty much free if you want it. I think Wisner's probably the best play in this game, 5K. His passing game work is crazy. 17% target share last 4 weeks. I know Blue does get in there for him sometimes as well, so you have to worry about that. But 5K, with that kind of target share, it's tough to beat. I think Isaiah Bond 4,800 is too cheap, coming off the injury, but he should be good to go. DeAndre Moore at 4,100, 5 touchdowns this year. I think all 5 came from two games. He's looked really good in the slot, taking over that Jordan Whittington role. So I think he's good. Man, the Florida receiver situation is too murky for me to know right now. If Badger's out, I think this DK is solid, and Mizell played well last week. So I don't mind those two, but kind of have to wait until tomorrow to kind of get a better idea of how it's going to be. But yeah, probably just a Texas running back situation for me right now, like Wisner or Blue.
All right, Big T, I'll go to you next on this one. It's a 54 total. And if I told you Texas was playing Florida and just knowing these teams, you probably wouldn't want that much exposure to this game, but it is a 54 total. It's, I mean, the price
total.
What is it? Oh, it's 47. Did I read it wrong? Maybe I read it wrong. Let me see.
It's a lower total.
I read it wrong. So it's a 47.5. I'm an idiot. So
it's a tough total. It's a tough spot for Florida. I mean, Texas is good. Low total, 21-point spread, 47 total. I mean, I don't see a ton. I definitely can't go to Florida. These are the spots I just never, ever play. Unless I really think Florida can, like, push the pace and keep things going. When I see a 47 total, though, and Texas favored by that much, I just can't do it. Wisner's going to be the highest owned play of the slate, I think, at 5K, just because how good he's looked, 23 projection. I can't poke any holes in it because he's looked good. If you want to just straight leverage play, though, it's got to be Blue at 5,400. He's not getting the same workload, and he's not as good of a play, but he's going to be 5% owned compared to 60% owned. And all it takes, I know people make fun of me when I say it, a rolled ankle, a blowout, all the different things that can happen, and you get the same play. I mean, the dude was a starter 3 weeks ago, and then they flipped a little bit. All it takes is one play, and you got the entire leverage of the slate on your back. So I'm not saying Wisner's definitely the best play for a reason, but if you're playing big field, $20 tournament for 100K to first or whatever it is, 50K to first, I don't know what it is this week. I don't hate the Blue pivot, just a straight leverage pivot.
Yeah, those can certainly get there. I don't love that game anyways. And for some reason, I don't know why I read the total wrong, but it's a 47.5. So it's pretty terrible. The next one is not a bad total. It is a 52 total. It's Boston College and Syracuse, which is definitely some teams we've played in DFS here and there. But Bruce, that is not my favorite part about this game. Do you know what the best part about this game is, Bruce? Have you heard the news about this one?
No, I have not.
I'm so happy. I know a little nugget about college football that you do not know. So this game is the announcer that called the Nick Castellanos.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
The announcer that called the Nick Castellanos meme of, it's a two-run home run and the apology. He is calling this game, and Thomas Castellanos is the quarterback. So he will have to say the words Castellanos like 40 times throughout the game. So that would be absolutely hilarious because he now is on the CW network, right? He's back broadcasting and everything. So, and this game is going to be on the CW. So little fun joke there. That'll be funny to watch and listen to, but not a game I think we're going to load up on DFS wise, Bruce, but Castellanos, he's 6.6K. And we talked about wanting to play cheap quarterbacks at times because they help gets in these big boy, plays that we need to get exposure to. 6.6K and a 20.24 projection on your end is pretty good. LaQuint Allen, he's definitely someone we always look to roster at 8.1. We've seen Pena have big games, 6.1K. You have been a 19.2 projection, which is a very strong projection for a nice mid-tier option. Lewis Bond at 5.1K. I mean, there's plays left and right here, Bruce, that we have to like. What are you going to do with this game?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. The Syracuse defense has been horrible all year. They've played some running quarterbacks like Haj Malik Williams. Haj Malik had a huge game for UNLV against them, and that's not like I don't think he's any better than Castellanos at all. So the backup for Virginia Tech last week, Colin Schley, ran for 54 yards and a touchdown. So I think Syracuse is definitely gettable here. Castellanos rushes 11 times per game. I think he has just one rushing touchdown this year. Hasn't ran as much as years past, it seems, but he's 6,600. So he just needs to really get in the end zone one time, maybe run for 100 yards if you're lucky. And he's definitely capable of it. LaQuint Allen's passing game work has been crazy lately, 6.5 targets per game. BC rush defense is pretty good this year, so I think you'll have to get it through the passing game, which he seems to do every time I fade him. just because it's a good rush defense doesn't mean they can stop him. Sometimes he's fed the football pretty often, but he is expensive, so you can make a case for these other running backs over him for sure. Then receivers, Syracuse loves to throw the football. So Pena, the Georgia transfer, Jackson Meeks, even Justice Ross Simmons at 5,300. That was a good tournament play, I think. He's getting more playing time. And Lewis Bond on the other side is probably my go-to guy for BC if I want to run back there.
All right, Big T. It might only be a 52 total, which is, I mean, it's not bad, but it's not great. But it's a 2-point spread, and I could see this game shooting out. We'll have to see. I think there's decent prices on a lot of these plays that make them a little enticing. What about you?
Yeah, and you just look at some of the numbers, it makes a lot of sense. It feels like a somewhat shootout spot. I wish it was at Syracuse because I don't know what the weather looks like tomorrow, but this time of year, Boston College, who knows what kind of weather they got. Feels like the total should be higher just eyeballing it. It feels like these teams should score. The Syracuse weapons, I just wish Kyle McCord's been my nemesis for years now. These receivers are good, and he just has games where he just sucks, though. Like, he's just terrible when you watch him. I guess that's why you go from Ohio State to Syracuse. You're bad. But still, these receivers, Pena and Meeks, and mainly those two. You could go to, like, Gadsden or the other dude, but Pena and Meeks just look good, and they get volume. I love targeting the big volume in these 5-6K price tags. Because even if it is a 52 total, and even if there isn't a ton of scoring, I mean, when you're getting 7, 8, 9 targets to these receivers, you're just going to get points. I don't love McCord, so it is similar to the other game I talked about, Cincinnati, where I think you can play one or two of these receivers without the quarterback. Like, you could play Castellanos, Bond, one or two Syracuse receivers type stack, because I do struggle to pay $9K for Kyle McCord, even though I like the receivers. It's a tough button to click. I think you could in tournaments because technically he does have upside with these receivers, but $9K, man, he should be like $7K. He should be $2K cheaper, so that's tough. The Quint Allen has to be always one of the best plays just because of pure volume, gets pass game, gets rush game, gets everything. So this game looks good for only having a 52 total. And Castellanos has to be, I would assume he ends up the chalkiest quarterback just because of price point. He's 6,600. He's got a projection above 20. You can play him naked if you had to because he supposedly can run a little bit. And Bond, I mean, Bond kind of sucks too. I always play him and he just never does anything. In college, you need upside. When you get like 12 points every week in college, that's just not any good, even if he gets targets. 5,100, though, I can see why you would play him with Castellanos, but I don't know. And then you got these two cheap running backs, similar to the West Virginia guys. They're both in the 4Ks. They both have a mid-teen projection. It makes sense, but again, I hate playing in college these teams with two running backs where you just don't get the full workload. You don't have a ceiling. You need ceiling in college.
Yeah, and that's one of those games. I don't know if the ceiling will get there, and if McCord sucks, right? Ooh, the ceiling could be killed on this game. You could go into halftime, and
these receivers are so freaking good too. I wish they had someone because Syracuse honestly has good players.
I'm with you on like wanting this game in that dome, right? If it was in the dome, I'd probably be a little more encouraged. I looked up the weather. It's 10 to 15 mile per hour winds. It's nothing crazy, but
that means more in college than it does pros. Like some of these college guys don't exactly whip it around the yard.
Yeah, for sure. I just figured I'd look it up, and I did notice one weird weather thing. I think it's on one of the games on this slate. Yeah, it is. We'll talk about it as we get to it, though. Let's get to Miami and Georgia Tech. Definitely not a bad DFS game. I'll tell you that. I feel like I always like the 3:30 window a little bit more than the later window, but this is I think it's the highest total. It's 64. So Bruce, do you have that as the highest total on the slate? I know it's close with the Army game.
Yeah, currently, it's 64 is the highest. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. And now pricing wise, Cam Ward is 10-6. We talked about it. It's hard to get in these expensive quarterbacks. But if Cam Ward does put up 40 plus, I mean, I'm not saying he will be on the winner, but the chances are strong. It depends what the values do and everything like that, and how the other cheap quarterbacks would do on the slate. Cam Ward is a 32 projection, which is very strong. Xavier Restrepo, he's going to be a clearly great play at 7.5K. If King is in, which I know he's questionable, he seems like a really good option that we want to get exposure to. Horton has emerged as a really good option at 5.2. We'll clearly like him. Haynes could put up a huge score. This is clearly a great game. We saw the Louisville and Miami game shootout. If King is back, I think there's a great chance that this game can shoot out and be a really fun DFS game. We know we'll like the receivers as well on Georgia Tech. They always have some fun guys you can roster. Singleton at 4.7, Rutherford at 4.8. I feel like their price tags are down because King has been out. And listen, those are just too cheap of price tags if King is in. So clearly going to be a great DFS game, Bruce. How are you attacking it?
Yeah, it should be a good one. I think Cam Ward is priced about where he should be every week. He's just been really good. His receivers are just too good as well. Restrepo has been crushing every week. So I know it's expensive, but I think in tournaments, if you build a nice game stack here, it's fun. What you'll need though is explosive plays for sure, just because both teams are pretty slow. Georgia Tech loves to run the football when they can. So you'll need Miami to get out to a lead, which they should be able to. The thing I was looking at before the show was the amount of explosive run plays that Miami has given up. And that's been part of their issue on defense. I don't mind a guy like Jamal Haynes at 6K in tournaments. He's going to be unowned. I think Miami was close to last and giving up explosive rush plays. So it could be a good tournament option there. Horton at 5,200 is too cheap. 26% target share last 4 weeks is elite. 11 targets last week too. Was right behind Restrepo's 12. So you get a nice savings there, even though Restrepo's been smashing too. Like you said, the Georgia Tech receivers are too cheap here. Singleton and Rutherford, even though they don't impress you with their ADOT. I think Rutherford's catching the ball 6 yards past the line of scrimmage, and Singleton's like 13 now, which that's increased a ton. He was really bad early in the year. They weren't giving him anything downfield, but I think he's solid. Sam Brown Jr. at 3,200, also a good play. Dude's explosive and plays over 40% of the snaps, so that's solid. And the two Miami backs, you hate playing those guys, but they're both still cheap, especially Fletcher at 3,900. He scored for me last week, but just still didn't put up a good enough score for me to be happy with. But both of those guys are good backs.
Yep, clearly going to be a good DFS game. Will the ownership reflect it? That's the key, Big T. Clearly going to be a game that we're going to like. There's going to be one in this window and then one in the next window. They're going to be the clear games that people are going to want to gravitate towards. Do we just play this game and kind of eat the chalk, or do we look for some low-end plays here, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, it's still a somewhat tough spot, at least for me, because Miami just has so many guys. I mean, they got 2 running backs. They got like 5 receivers that catch the ball. Obviously, it's perfect for Cam Ward because it doesn't matter who he goes to. He's going to go to guys that are going to make plays. So it almost is a spot where I don't ever say these things, but like you could play him naked a little bit and not worry about who you pair him with because there's just so many guys. And all these guys, besides Restrepo, none of these other guys have shown upside either. They all get solid like 15 a week, 10, 12, 15 a week. Good volume, but I don't see a ton of upside from any of these guys just because he spreads it around so much and they just have so many bodies. So I actually like the Georgia Tech side more than the Miami side, where Jamal Haynes at 6K with everything Bruce just said. I mean, giving up big plays. Georgia Tech wants to run the ball on him. I mean, he seems like a great play at 2% owned. I mean, man, that looks very tasty to me. I don't know if the ownership may come up, but the running backs, I'm looking at the list of running backs. I mean, he's far down. So I think Jamal Haynes is very, very good play in this game. And then the good part of Georgia Tech, they don't have all the depth. They got Singleton and Rutherford. They got King if he's in. If he's not in, then I don't like him as much. I think he'll be in, but if they're not, then I don't like it as much. But they only got 4 guys, so running back, 2 receivers. I like the Georgia Tech side a decent amount, and I honestly think they could be in this game. I know they're getting 10.5. If they are at full strength health wise, I think they could play with Miami and maybe throw a shocker in there on them. So I don't know. I like Cam Ward. I like Restrepo. I don't love the other guys though, based on their projections. They're all projected really good. Horton's projected good because of his targets. I get it, his targets. I just haven't seen what's his biggest game of the year? Is he had a 23 and a 27, both very good, obviously. But the one was a 50-15 South Florida game. The other one was a good game versus. I mean, he gets so much volume, so they're good plays. I don't want it to sound like they're not good plays because they are, but there's just so many bodies that it makes it tough.
It does, but he definitely could have that monster 203 TD game. He has the ability to for sure. So
it's all volume, like Bruce said. He gets the volume. So I mean, if you're getting 11, 12 targets from Cam Ward, you're gonna explode here and there.
Yeah. And honestly, it's not like their running game is this force, right? When you play Ohio State guys, right? You obviously know the concern. They got good running backs, Damon Martinez and all these guys. Restrepo has the ceiling for sure. So definitely going to like him. And he's only 7,500. It's not like he's 9K or something like that. All right, let's get to the next game. We're going to go to the big 63 total. We'll go to Army and North Texas. Udo is looking like a very strong play. Mr. Kanye, 5.9K, really strong projection right now. Bruce, maybe talk about how that's going to affect things if Coleman is in and Daly switches in there. That's definitely a big thing because I do think you will bump Udo's projection down for sure. And that'll be a big talking point. That's something we'll have to deal with probably a little bit tomorrow. Sheffield at 7.9, clearly going to be a good spend up option. He's got a great projection from you. You got Conwright. He's a really good value. You can get in there. Dalton Carnes, he's another good value play that you get to. There's tons of really, really good options in this game, Bruce. Feels like a great game that you want to get exposure to. How are you going to attack it?
Yeah, this should be a great game. I know I watched the UNT game maybe last season or year before last where they just gave up long run after long run to an option team. I think it was Army or Navy, one of them. But the lines came down since earlier in the week. It's now Army -3 where it was 6. So that kind of tells me that Bryson Daly might be out. Line has moved a whole lot there. I don't think UNT has got a better defense in between now then and now. So I'm kind of leaning towards accepting that Dwayne Coleman will probably start here. And if that's the case, I don't have any interest in Coleman after watching him play against Air Force last week. That was a pretty bad defense, and he was having issues running the football. So, but yeah, Udo is probably one of my. He's going to be super owned, but this UNT rush defense is terrible. They're giving up 31 DraftKings points per game on the ground. So I think he smashes. Tough to play UNT backs. They've just been bad all year at running the football, but they can pass. We saw Chandler Morris get banged up late in the last game that they played against Tulane. So it'll be interesting to see if he's even playing because that shoulder injury looked bad, but he came back. So and didn't look 100% after coming back. But I think Damon Ward is a solid play. Looked good. He was their wide receiver 1 before getting hurt. DT Sheffield, like you mentioned, he's priced up, but still a good play. Conwright and Carnes are all solid too. So it's a good game for offense for sure. Not as good without Daly in there, but I think both teams are going to put up some points.
Yeah, both teams will definitely put up points. Obviously, the news is going to be super important because it'll change the slate regardless. It'll make Kanye just an absolutely better play, and ownership will move if he is. If we have Daly in, ownership's going to shift things around. It's going to be a different slate. So that's why you got to get in the Run Pure Sports Discord. Big T, I'll go to you next. Talk about this game. Clearly going to be a good one to get exposure to. How are you going to get exposure?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the best game on the board to me, and it doesn't really even look close either.
Well, is it better than the game we just talked about? Like that much better?
I think it's like infinitely better than. I don't even like the last game that much. Like, so I don't even understand like the ownerships to this. Like, why? So last week was similar too, where no one was on Chandler Morris and DT Sheffield or that much. I mean, these guys nuke every freaking week. I mean, like 40s. Like Chandler Morris is putting 40s up, and no one's noticed. And it's a 63 total. They're gonna be able to throw on Army. They're gonna throw all over them. And like DT Sheffield goes for 30 plus every week. Damon Ward went for 30 last week, like Bruce is saying. I mean, this to me is just slam dunk city against Army. And I don't see any ownership on these guys. And I'm looking at it like I guess I don't understand what I'm missing. Sometimes I look at stuff and I just don't get it. It's a huge total. These guys nuke every week and no one's going to play them. Why? Because they're priced up. I guess that's why, because they're expensive. They are expensive. You know why they're expensive? Because they score 40 freaking points every week. they should be expensive. And I love the double stack there. Chandler Morris, Sheffield, Ward. I know it's expensive, but I freaking love it because they're going to smash. And I still think Bryson Daly plays. I feel pretty good that he plays, but obviously we'll know before anything comes out. I mean, we'll get the news. How much is the other dude, the other quarterback?
Like 9.93.
Oh, so he, just like last week, he's priced the friggin' same way, where it makes it tough. So either way, I think Udo is a really good play, but obviously I would like him more. I mean, he's a lock to me if Daly's out. If he's in, I still think you can play both of those guys. So let me see, how much salary is it if you were to play just game stack this puppy and you played Daly
11.4
Udo for what did you say?
9.5 plus 5.9.
Sheffield and Ward. So if you played Daly and Udo, Morris, Sheffield, Ward, you got a little over 4K for your last three spots.
Oh.
That's plenty in my opinion. Like that's a true game stack I love. I can easily find 3 value pieces to fit in those spots. And value's always there in college. I think this game just friggin' nukes. I mean, I think everyone's scared of like Army games because they run the ball so much. But when they house their runs, it just gets the ball right back to the other team. I think this game's like a total slam dunk over, and I feel very good about it. Obviously, if Daly's out, I'm not going to like it as much. But I'll still like the North Texas side. North Texas is going to throw it all over this team. North Texas is probably going to beat Army, even though people don't want to hear that. I don't see how Army can stop them. I really don't. Watching them last week, Army might score every trip too. So this game is just a slam dunk. I love it. I don't understand the ownership though. What am I missing? Like I don't get it. I guess why is no one owned?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird to me too. Whenever I was going through, I've gone to the different sites and read, who each side is pushing, and I see some UNT stuff, but not
much
a ton.
though, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm like looking through the list and stuff, and I'm like, I don't see these guys anywhere. I don't understand. These guys nuke. I watched the whole game last week too because I was in on this team can chuck the ball around the yard.
Yeah, Morris is good. I mean, he was good,
really good. And
he's good enough to go there,
right?
His dad was the Arkansas coach for a while, and was at Clemson for a while. Yeah, he's a good coach. And Morris was at Oklahoma. He was at TCU before ending up at UNT. So, dude has talent for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be the pricing is the only reason, but I don't care. Whatever, you got to pay up in college to get some upside.
Yeah, you definitely have to pay for some, and there's value, right? What do you guys think of Sheffield?
Not over 4K for the last 3 spots. I mean, that's plenty.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely good. Tony, what do you think if this is a bet? Sheffield anytime touchdown -110.
I mean, of course I like it. I always like so me personally, I always like some of the alt stuff more where like I bet him to score 2 or 3 touchdowns at plus 1,000 or something.
Yeah.
But I do, yeah, I like it. I like -1. I think he scores for sure. I'd rather just because in college it's just snowballs. Like he'll catch 3 touchdowns, get 10-1 odds instead.
Yeah. I like those for sure. Like the
Those are
Hudson.
just funner. I think they're more profitable long term too, because like -110, you still, I mean, you gotta churn out 65%. Whereas I only got to hit 1 out of 10 for the other ones. When you hit these ladders, it pays them all off.
Like last night, I had Hudson to score a touchdown. First touchdown was 60-1, and then I got 13-1 for any time. It was insane. And I mean, there's some good ones you can get. I had Greg Dortch that I hit first time this year, 27-1. There's some insane odds. Yeah. So that's why I like to climb the ladder more. If you think the game's going to shoot out, he's going to be part of it. Get those better odds, I would say. But that's how I would attack it, just like you. Let's get to the Michigan and Indiana game where, man, Indiana they are 14.5-point favorites, which, I mean, if you told me at the start of the year that was the case. I know Michigan lost a lot of guys, but that's crazy to think. Indiana's been amazing this year. I don't want to attack this game that much. It's not a game I want to get a lot of exposure to. I mean, Michigan is just not a fun team to take guys against or for. Bruce, are you playing anyone for this game yet?
Yeah, it's tough to play anybody just because of the rotation. Indiana running back rotation's terrible. I think Ellison's probably the most talented, and Indiana should roll here. I think if you're playing anybody, it's probably the receivers like Surratt or Keyshawn Williams for 3,400 is good value. Colston Loveland is 4,800. Dude has a 37% target share last 4 weeks because, I mean, who else are you going to throw to on this Michigan team? All the receivers are pretty bad. And the quarterback's bad. So he's put up some big numbers, and he's still only 4,800. So I'm interested there. But yeah, mostly a game I'm staying away from.
Tony, this is a 49.5 total. Are you staying away from Indiana and Michigan?
I mean, Indiana games are death to fantasy. Their defense is good. They play slow. They're just a good team. Michigan, similar. I agree. I'll speed it up. We don't need to talk about Loveland. I can always play Loveland. The guy I've played him a lot this year in low totals. He's a beast. So huge target share. Can play him. Him and Surratt would be the only guys I would even consider in this game.
All right, let's get to the next game. And Bruce, I need to talk to you about this because when I saw these two teams, I expected a way higher total. Maybe I'll give out my first bet on the show. Like it just feels like a stone lock. I don't understand why 51 is the total of Iowa State and Kansas. Is someone out? Am I missing something? Last game, yes, I know the under hit, but it was raining. It was a disaster. Like it just was an ugly game. I feel pretty confident Iowa State Kansas shoots out a bit. This is a game I'll definitely get exposure to DFS wise. Obviously, we like the other games better that are in the 60s, but you can't ignore Devin Neal at 6.7K. Higgins at 7.1 is a great option. Rocco at 6.9K. I think he's a good quarterback option. Jalen Daniels at 5.8. I'll like him. Noel at 6.1 is a good play. Grimm at 5.5. Awesome option. Carson Hansen at 4K. Cheap running back that I'll definitely get exposure to. I know Sama was mixed in there a little more than I liked last week, but I still think Hansen is a good play. So I like a lot of plays in this game, Bruce. I think this game is going to go way over the 51 total. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of a sneaky game. Iowa State, they're going a little bit faster this year than they did a year ago. In Kansas, they're kind of hitting their stride with their new offensive coordinator. He was at Baylor last year and moved over after their offensive coordinator went to Penn State. So, they're kind of getting better every week. I thought Jalen Daniels last 2 weeks before the bye week, he's looked really good. Been running the football a lot more, which you like to see. Everybody hates Jalen Daniels for sure, just because, especially earlier in the year, he didn't put up many points, but I think he looks a lot more confident. He destroyed Houston, which has a good defense. We've seen the last couple of weeks. I mean, they beat Kansas State. So I really like Daniels here at 5,800. It seems way too cheap. Beck kind of let us down last week against Texas Tech, but this is a Kansas defense that's horrible against the pass. Higgins, Noel are both in play for me. Devin Neal, like you mentioned, also a great play, especially with Hishaw out for the future. I know he wasn't on the depth chart, so he's definitely out this one. They could run Sevion Morrison in there a little bit more, but I think Neal's probably going to get most of the snaps here, so should smash. Hansen, Sama, both of those guys are going to get carries. I think Hansen's probably the best of the two. Just going to get maybe 10 to 15 carries there, so I think they're in play. And then Grimm and Arnold and Skinner, just throw them in a hat and pick one, because it's always tough to pick one. Burkle for Iowa State's the tight end, the new tight end. He got 6 targets last week, and he's $3K. He's been priced. He's on the playbook for sure. So, yeah, it's a good game, like you said. Sneaky just because of the total. Not a lot of people will play it. Yeah,
I don't understand the total. I think this game should be a 56 or 57. I just don't get it. Maybe I'm wrong, but and again, I don't give out bets too much on this show, so I'm definitely betting that one for sure. Big T, do you agree on this game being a good one? I know the thing I like about it is I think Kansas, like, being at home is helpful because Iowa State is the better offense. I don't want them to steamroll them. I want it to be a little bit of back and forth game. And I think having Jalen Daniels at home is very good for this game and can help it interact even more. So I love this game. What about you, Tony?
I would assume there's weather in this game too, because there's a bunch of snow in that area, and I don't know what it's going to be tomorrow, but man, Iowa State pissed me off last weekend. They were so frustrating to watch. They were just in such a good spot, and they just gave me nothing, it felt like. Some of the guys did end up getting there and stuff, but it was ugly. Like, Higgins still had a big game. It was freaking ugly, though. And Kansas, I don't know. Like, I like Neal, but they have all these receivers. I can't really play any of them. Jalen Daniels is cheap, which is nice, so you can definitely go to him as a cheap tag and just – I can't play any of the receivers with him, though. I mean, I could take a chance, I guess, but there's just other cheap guys I like more. So I like Daniel. Neal would be where I'd want to go for sure, because I could see him really getting going in this spot. And then Iowa State's always the same. Higgins, Noel, Becht. The running backs are tilting, but you can play them just because they're cheap. I mean, even Abu, our boy Abu from last year, 3,400. I don't know. You just never know what they're going to do with these running backs. Jalen Jackson could come in and crush this week. They just rotate these guys, and it's so frustrating. But I don't know. I agree with you guys. I don't know if I see a shootout, but I do think these fantasy plays are good plays.
Yeah. And weather looks fine, by the way, for tomorrow. Just a little bit of wind. Looks like 12 miles an hour. So
I looked it up too. It's not bad. The weather's gonna be 63 to 42 is the high and the low. Like, and of course this game's played at 2:30 their time, I believe. Actually, yeah, I think it's only an hour back. I can't remember but regardless, it's in the afternoon, right? It's gonna be in the 60s or high 50s. So this is a game that I just think it's too low. I think it's completely wrong. And honestly, Iowa State, I think they bounced back pretty good after last week. They were very disappointing. Felt like they left a lot on the field. And so I'm in on this game. I'm going to like that. And one thing I like about this team too is if it's a shootout, I know exactly where it's going, right? Like, I don't have to worry about, I didn't have Jacoby George or any of these guys. And I know it doesn't have as high of a percentage shoot as some of the other ones, but I just think the total's wrong. So I'm going to try and take advantage of that. I'll try to take advantage of it on the main slate, and I'll do it on the afternoon slate as well. Let's get to next game up. Clemson and Virginia Tech. If our guy Steve Boynton is watching, he'll be loving the Virginia Tech talk here on the show. Curious to see what you're going to have to say about this one, Bruce, because, hey, it's a 52.5 total, and I could see this going over. I could see it shooting out. We'll have to see, though. I mean, Tutton and Drones, really good plays. Not as good as some other plays on the slate, but they're definitely have tournament winning upside. Then, of course, we have the conversation with Cade Klubnik, who's been amazing this year. But 9.3K, do I want to spend on that on this slate? I'm a little uncertain if that's the best use of my salary. Phil Maffa at 6.5, that does feel like really good use of my salary. And then they have cheap receiving options. Antonio Williams has been great at 5.6. Bringen Stool, good projection at 4K. Wesco Jr., 3.1K. I mean, there's definitely plays that you have to like on the Clemson side. They're going to put up points. I do think the game that we talked about is better than this one. But, Bruce, how are you going to attack this one?
Yeah, this one's solid too. If you watch the Clemson game last week, they had Louisville at home, And Isaac Brown ran for 7.5 yards per carry, 151 yards and a touchdown against this Clemson defense, who, a lot of people respected, but they've been bad this year. So they have to travel to Virginia Tech here. Have to take on Tootin on the ground, 8,300. He's practicing in full again. Not sure if he's going to wear the knee brace this week, but if he's healthy, I don't mind him here, especially after what they gave up last week. And he's the better back over a guy like Isaac Brown, who's solid. But I think Tootin's probably the better guy here. Phil Maffa at 6,500, just too cheap. I don't know why he never gets priced up. He put up 30 last week as well. So I think he's always a solid play here. All the Clemson receivers are healthy now, and we saw that last week. They had all their guys. They played Antonio Williams 88% of the snaps, Brenning Stool 79, TJ Moore at 57%. He's 3,300, 5-star freshman receiver. And the other guy that they have is Wesco, 63% of snaps. So those are the guys who are going to get the volume. Those guys are all cheap. So they have to be in play. And you know where where the football is going to go from a guy like Klubnik, who's going to pass it a good amount here too. Drones is back too. He missed last week after the injury. Him and Tootin missed. They still put up 31 points. So the offense is clicking. So I like those two guys. Kind of a sneaky game. And like you said, like the last one, you can kind of figure out where the football is going to go to.
Yeah, I mean, again, another lower total than I expected. Like, it's 52.5. I would have expected to be in like 55. So definitely not a bad game to get exposure to, Tony. What are you doing with some of these cheap prices in this game?
Yeah, what in the world happened to Clemson last week? I've been on Louisville all year, and they've let me down, it feels like, all year. And then they just were taking it to Clemson. Clemson's that was a weird one for me. Not a lot of games like totally shocked me. Them just manhandling this team was pretty shocking to me. But you have some great prices in this game. Maffa 6,500, Wesco 3,100. That's what I'm saying. Like, with that game stack, I mean, Wesco at 3,100. That's a slam dunk. I mean, that 3,100. I wish he was 3K so we could put him in our famous shitter category on the playbook. But he's got an extra 100, so he's got to come up with the big boys. And then you got these Virginia Tech guys. Like Drones, I think Drones is super sneaky on this slate. Clemson was leaky, and they got to be a little down because they started this year bad. They got it going a little bit, and then they got put right back in their place. Maybe they'll just quit. And I think Drones is like a very, very sneaky play in this spot that no one's going to play. Tootin too, but I'm a little more worried about him with some of the injury concerns and stuff like that. And the price point is just really high for him. But he could do it too. I think they could just pound this team on the ground, as we saw last week. And, I mean, the Clemson guys are good plays, though. Besides Klubnik, I mean, you can't pay $9,300 for him. I don't think, at least. At least he's got cheap receivers, I guess, that kind of helps it, where, like, you could play – I mean, say you wanted to play TJ Moore or Brenning Stool. We always like Brenning Stool at 4K. Wesco at 31. He does have cheap receivers, but it's a little bit like the Syracuse situation where that price tag should be $7,300 and it's $9,300. It's crazy. Like, I don't, again, like, not to talk about North Texas again, but how is it the same price point? That dude gets 40 every game. So I don't understand it, but I do like the receivers and the price points here.
All right, so Big T likes the receivers and the price points. It's a good game for sure. And again, it's a good play. There's good pricing everywhere. It's definitely going to be a fun one. We got 2 games left, and 2 games we definitely will be talking about. One, Georgia and Ole Miss. So there is going to be rain in this game, Bruce. Maybe you probably tracked this a little bit better. I know it's like a 54 total, but there will be some rain. We don't know when it's going to come, and it's a day before. So maybe look at this more tomorrow morning, track the total a little bit, but it's a game that clearly could be a really good one. We had slate breaking plays in this game last time. We got Wells Jr., 3.8K, definitely someone that you can look at here. Dart at 9.6 if you want to spend for him. I'm not dying to get to the Georgia side, but you do have a good projection on Carson Beck. Got a good projection on Lovett as well. Etienne, we know how good he can be in spots. So clearly a good game, but I want to track this weather a little bit. What's your overall thoughts here?
Yeah, it looks like it's gonna rain most of the day tomorrow there. That could hurt the passing game just a little bit, but it's there's not much wind, so it could be okay. But both teams should have to pass the football in this one, just because the rush defenses are both solid on both ends. I hate playing running backs against Georgia. They've done a solid job stopping the run. So with Parrish out for Ole Miss, all their running backs are cheap, which it's going to be tough to play them still. Like Bentley is 3,200 and probably will start, and then Dominique Thomas is 4K, probably get some run also, and then Matt Jones is 3,300. So, but it's just tough to play running backs against Georgia for sure. Etienne could miss this one; he's questionable, and if he does, probably get Nate Frazier starting at 3,500. I don't think that's a terrible play, even though Ole Miss has been good against the run as well. But yeah, I'd probably save that for tournaments. I'm more apt to use the quarterbacks and the wide receivers like Carson Beck. He hasn't been great this season, but he is going to sling it. Pass rate over expected is near the top on the slate. Same with Jackson Dart. With these Ole Miss receivers out too. I know Jordan Watkins was upgraded to questionable from doubtful, so we'll have to wait for that one. But Trey Harris is out, could see Juice Wells 3,800, Daquan Wright at 3,800, Caden Lee at 4,500. All these Ole Miss receivers are cheap, and then you have Dominic Lovett at 4,700 for Georgia, and Bell at 4,800 as well. So. All these guys are cheap in the passing game. Just have to monitor the weather just a little bit in the morning. I think it'll be fine. The wind doesn't look terrible. So, and both teams are going to want to pass.
All right, Tony. Georgia going in on the road. And this Georgia team is not I'm not saying they're bad, but they're not what I think people thought they would be. Ole Miss, it's a win or go home game, right? I mean, 3 lost teams, we don't know if they get in the playoffs, and maybe they do, but this would be a big statement game if they could win this one. You can make a case for some of these cheap pass catchers that Bruce just talked about. Is this a game you want to get exposure to, or do you just see too many good games in the slate where it's just one that you're going to be lighter on?
Yeah, Georgia games are tough. There's just a lot of guys. I do think Ole Miss, though, these price points, Jordan Watkins looked really good. I know a lot of those plays were just blown coverages, too, where he just lit it like Jamar Chase last night, just runs behind the defense and just wide open. But still, you still got to do it. You still got to get open and make the plays, even if it is leaky coverage. 4,700. He was 4K last week. I think you can go to him and lead, but they both have been cheaper. Now you're facing Georgia. Honestly, this game looks like a stay away to me, mostly. Jackson Dart's projection feels high at 9,600. I think these plays are okay for fillers, but I'm not in love with it.
Yeah, I like the idea of fillers just because, one, there's priced up guys in the game, and two, there's a lot of good games, and I do want to get overweight on some spots, right? You just can't play everyone, and you're going to have to make some decisions, and this is one that likely there's some cuts here for me. Let's hit the last game, which is going to be a really good game. I've talked about it pretty much every single time we do a show is I want to attack Texas Tech games. I'm going to keep attacking Texas Tech games. Sure, it didn't smash, I don't think, last week, but that's okay. I'm going to attack Texas Tech. I'm going to do it here with this Colorado game. The question is, how can we do it pricing-wise? Now, the good news is Shadir Sanders is 8.9. That feels cheap for him. We've had him basically 9K for the entire season. We get him in a really great spot. 62 total. Travis Hunter, 9.5K. Taj Brooks, 8.4. Another guy that's definitely worth spending on. I know this defense has been a little bit better for Colorado, but Taj Brooks, we know the ability he has. And then these pass catchers with Morton. Kelly at 6K, he's got upside. Douglas at 4.6, still price hasn't gone up enough. You got Wester at 5.2, who's going to project pretty well. Clearly a great game to get exposure to. Let's do it like this, Bruce. This is clearly a good game. So is Miami and Georgia Tech. And then so is Army and North Texas. I want you to rank this game versus the other 3 games and then talk about how you're attacking this one.
Yeah, I'd probably have this right behind Army UNT, but it's close. Both these teams are going to pass the football. They're both relatively quick. Even though Colorado's tried to run the football a little bit more here lately, they have Augustive at running back, who's been good. Arkansas transfer. I was just checking the weather for tomorrow here. Looks okay. No rain. 15-mile-an-hour wind, so that could be a little bad, but I don't think it's too bad there. They're kind of used to it there in West Texas. So, I think it's a solid game. You have Sanders is way too cheap. When I ran projections on Wednesday, I think it was, he was in my optimal along with Wester at 5,200. That combo is just too cheap. And then, you can run it back with a guy like Josh Kelly at 6K, or even Caleb Douglas, who's nuked a slate or two with his touchdown upside. And then Coy Eakin at 3,900, and all the rest of these Colorado receivers that are going to be on the field the whole game, like Jimmy Horn at 3,900, Will Shepard 3,800, and even Draylon Miller at 3K. He doesn't get the snaps that everybody else does, but he's been priced, and he is involved in the offense too. So I think all those guys are interesting. Then you have to spend up like Travis Hunter. He's going to be relatively low owned at that price, but he can nuke too. He's getting the targets to get there. There's 40-point upside. He has a huge game, and this is a terrible Texas Tech secondary. So I like that. And then Taj Brooks, let a lot of people down, scored that late touchdown. I faded him last week, and he didn't do anything till the last drive. But I think it's a good spot for him, especially at that price. He's going to be low owned for a workhorse guy too. So I think all these guys are in play. It's a good stack to have, especially for like that late hammer.
All right, Tony, I want you to do exactly what Bruce did to it, then talk about this game. Rank this game versus the other 260 totals. Where do you have this one? Because it's clearly going to be a good game to get exposure to, but we are going to have to take some stance. There's 360 totals. They're obviously games we're going to want to get exposure to. We talk about playing good cash plays and the good plays in college football, but rank this one versus the other 2 and then talk about it.
Yeah, this is the middle game for me. Like, I think the Miami game's the worst in this, and I mean the Army game's for sure my favorite, as long as one dude's in. But the problem with this game compared to the other game is these guys are expensive, and they're expensive for a reason. I don't disagree with Bruce that they're underpriced, but they're still expensive as far as building a team. Like, if you wanted to, like, I think Sanders and Hunter have just insane upside, like 50-point upside, but you got to pay to get them. And I do think you're capable though on this slate. So just the same example I used with the other game. Let me see real quick the pricing on this game. So just say you wanted to really go with the upside stack, because we do have cheap options otherwise. So if you play Hunter, let's just say you play Hunter and Sanders, and then you play, because you don't even need to play Morton in your stack. If you play Taj and Kelly, so you play the 4 best plays, what in my mind in this game, Kelly. So Sanders, Hunter, Brooks, Kelly. You're in that similar price range as our other stack, 4,300 left, but you're also one position less and one less quarterback in the mix. But, man, you got a ton of upside. And the good part about Brooks, he just gets so much volume. I mean, his worst game in the last 5 was 23 points. And there's just something to be said about that. There's just something to be said about pure volume when so many of these other games we're talking about multiple guys sharing the load and all this stuff. He just does it every week. And Josh Kelly's only 6K with him. You can play cheaper guys too, Caleb Douglas. get guys like that. So I think this game has all the upside. Texas Tech, they played Iowa State last week, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean that was that game where they just owned Iowa State.
Yeah,
Colorado
the
turned the
weather was ugly for what it's worth, Tony. Like the rain.
I mean, I watched it. They suck though. I mean, we can use the weather as a cop out. They stunk though. I was on them with you. They stunk. I mean, there was wide open guys he was missing. I'm not giving them the cop out you're giving them.
I'm giving them the pass just because I know they're better than that and they're going to bounce back.
You've been on Iowa State every week though. You love Iowa State. They're your boy.
I'm an Iowa State guy. That's 1,000%. I'm a big fan.
I think these plays are really good. So I don't mind it. You're going to have to find something cheap to go with it. But if I do, though, I want the big dogs. And honestly, you could put I didn't realize how much workload Augustev or whatever you said his name.
Yeah.
You could pop him. What if we popped him in the same thing? And then you got 4,400 for your last 3 spots, which I think is very manageable, honestly. So he looks really good, actually. He's 3,900 and he got 22 carries last week.
Yep.
I mean, man, they might have found some. And these are the plays I like to get on as the season goes. There was one last night, too. There's no way I'm going to remember his name, but he got a boost like this where it was each week, and then I played him and did pretty good last night. I don't remember. It doesn't even matter. But you go from 14 carries to 22 carries, and the key is he's 3,900. So if he really is kind of the main guy, because I know the other dude from Ohio State sucks, Hayden. I mean, that dude sucks. He sucked at Ohio State. He sucks now. So you got to think that – is this other dude the one that housed that one that I keep seeing the highlight?
I think so. Yeah, I played him last week and he was good. Yeah.
To be honest,
highlight some little dude housing one. I'm assuming it's got to be this guy, but
I saw him like maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, and he was working in a little more, and I was like, why does this guy not play more? And like I was tilted because I had the pass game and I needed it bad, and I was like, well, they're just owning him on the ground. Like, what am I gonna do? This dude's just gonna crush. So
the 3,900 price point is nice. I mean that's good. I like this game. This game's I don't like it as much. Say Davies is out. I'll like this game probably more. The prices are hard, but I sometimes like when the prices are hard because it makes you get more creative. And you know what people don't do is get creative. They always want the safe plays. They don't want to get in here and play 2-3K guys. But we have cheap 3K guys that are great on this slate. At least I think are great. When you look at who was it we were talking about? Wesco and Mays and Tony Johnson. And I think there was one more on my list that I had. Whoever it was that I said earlier in the show. But there's so many cheap guys you can go to that I'm playing the big dogs, though, like Hunter. The dude in the chat that said Hunter could be like Chase last night. Hunter can absolutely – fry a slate, especially a team like Texas Tech. We watched those Iowa State guys, even though they stunk, they were wide open all game. They just couldn't get hit. So Hunter's going to be wide open.
Yeah, and so last week I had the 3K shitter list, and I posted in the chat the top 4. I had Patrick Overmeyer, the UTSA tight end. He scored a touchdown. Chris Hunter, the Arizona receiver, was 3K. He went 7 for 102. Daquan Wright was 3K. He went 9 for 99 and 2 touchdowns. And then Justice Lowe I had on there. He was 6 for 45.
That's what the 3K shitters do.
That's plug those guys in.
That's what Bruce is famous for. Those dudes crush. For the 10 years I've known Bruce, they always crush.
We've got good ones this week too. Not as good as last week, but definitely some good ones.
Those 3,100 guys I know it's an extra 100, but those guys look pretty tasty.
Yeah.
That's why I got to subscribe to the playbook over at Run Pure Sports and, check it out. Bump up the projection of those guys. Make sure you get a little bit more exposure to them. Let's get the plays of the day. And then I know Big T's got to get out here and do the Prim Factory. We've been going for a little bit. Bruce, I'll kick it to you first. Who do you got? Who is your play of the day?
I'm going to go back to my guy, Jaden Higgins, 7,100 this week, crushed for me last week. So I'm going to go back to him. Tough between him and Jeremiah Smith, but I like both. I think they both smashed this week.
You just said Higgins you got?
Yep. Jaden Higgins. Yeah.
I mean, I was going to take Noel. I don't know if I should. I guess I could take Noel also. So I'm going to give out Noel. He's my guy. I love
you guys
that.
in your freaking Iowa State team. Oh, my God, you guys love them.
they're good, and then we know where they're going. That's the key, Tony. I'll tell you, that game's going to be super fun. I'm excited. I'm even going to have a cheap quarterback I'll like too.
Has this game ever been super fun in your lifetime?
Yes, they have, for sure. They definitely
have.
I'm about to look and see. Let's see the Kansas schedule. Let's see if there were any games this year that were good games.
Kansas wears condoms.
I mean, let's see. So they have any big games this year? I mean, they did. Like the TCU game was 38-27. That was a good one. No. Arizona State was 35-31. I mean, they've had some good games. I'm on board with this game. Tony, let's go to you. Who do you got? Who's the old workbench play of the day?
I'm trying to figure out what I'm missing with this North Texas. I'm just looking at the projections, and I just don't understand them. So either I'm just an idiot, or which could be. I definitely am not saying that that's not the truth, but I just don't understand. No one's playing these guys. It's a 60-something total, and Army can't stop the pass. I just don't understand it. Maybe I am missing something, but I'm giving the whole double stack for my play of the day. Morris, DT Sheffield, Damon Ward, little three-man unit. You can even build a full team. Just out of curiosity as we finish, let's put your guys in here. Let's just see if we put Morris. Let's see what we got here. Let's help the people out that are watching. So I got Sheffield, I got Ward, I got Morris. You guys got Rocco Taco, and Higgins, and who's the Noel?
Yeah, it's probably a little expensive.
So it's a little tough, but it's 30. So it's 3,700 for two running backs. These are the builds though that win tournaments. I'll just say it. These are the builds that I've won. So like you plug the Colorado guy in, he's got a good projection, and then you only need one 3,500 running back to make that team work. And you might have to like close your eyes when you click the button. But when those two passing stacks crush and that 39, it doesn't even really matter what your 3,500 guy does. And if you somehow hit on him, is there any 3,500 running back, Bruce?
One that I'm looking for this weekend is Zach Evans, not the former Ram running back, but he's the former Minnesota running back that was there with Ibrahim and those guys. He's getting healthy for UNT, so if he plays, he's 3,100.
31. So let's look at him. Okay, so and the good thing for this team too, I'm plugging these dudes in, but the interesting part with our stack and the way it sets up, you could actually play an Iowa State running back who's projected double digits, Abu, 3,400, which goes similar to our team where it's stacked up. Or the North Texas running back is a cheapie that he got the Sibley dude at 3,200 he got 11 carries last week. I mean, it's not pretty. I'm not saying that I'm like recommending that dude, but in our team where it's stacked up, I don't know. I like teams like I might put this in the $20 right now just for fun, just for a little show build here.
There you go. A little show build for the people. Tony, you got to get on out of here. You got the show coming up. We got NBA tonight, college football playbook. Big T, how about you just get out of here, and then Bruce will give a Friday night breakdown. You want to do that?
Sure. Yeah, that works.
Thing's going to get jacked up, but yeah.
I'll fix it. Don't worry. Yeah, I just know you got to go, and we got tons of stuff going on. So get on out of here, and then we'll do a breakdown, me and Bruce. There you go. Screen's jacked up. Here's the code, though. Go to the code over here. Down there. Sign up. RPS. Get a little get some promotion there. But Bruce, talk about the Friday nights. Like 4 games, and then we'll get on out of here. I know we always do this at the end of the show, and I just realized, so talk about it with us.
Yeah, we have Cal Wake. Their defense has been horrible all year. Cal has to go coast to coast, so it'll be interesting to see if Cal can move the football. Rice and Memphis on the slate again. Both teams passing offenses, so should be a fun one. 52 total there, and then Iowa goes to UCLA, which is a tough trip for sure. Both slow teams. But UCLA is getting better, in my opinion, 60% passing team. So that could be fun against a bad Iowa pass defense. And then the last game of the night, New Mexico and San Diego State. So that should be a good one. Both fast-paced teams and bad defenses on both sides. The pricing is tough, but it's a fun slate for sure. Just going to finish up the playbook now, and then get the playbooks up for tomorrow. And looking forward to it. Always be in the Discord posting injury updates. I know with everything that's going on right now, sports wise, it's a lot. So I'll try and keep people up to date with those.
All right, well, go hang out with Big T at the Print Factory now. He's doing that for NFL. Bruce, I think I'm going to stack up Callum Week. I think I'm just going to Cal Week, the cheap quarterbacks, get my good plays, and call it a day. That looks like that's what's going to be my core. So if you guys want that, there you go. But I'm going to put that up now. Any final thoughts here, Bruce?
Nope, sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Yep, and hopefully I can come back and say, hey, I told you so. Iowa State is still great. That game shoots out. We get the over hit because I already bet that, so I'm in on that one. Thanks a lot for joining us here on the Print Factory Show. Hopefully Bryce gets a little bit better, and we'll have him back next week. Thanks a lot for joining us. For me, MANGONE, Bruce, and Big T. We'll see you guys later.